All right, so in this little quick mini lesson, we're going to be talking about why it's important to wait and pay more for a stock than to pay and wait. A little bit about time value of money and why it's important to not enter stuff that's below the moving averages. It's better to enter it later on. So we're going to show a couple of clips from May and then a couple of clips from current to kind of explain exactly what happened with this McDonald's trade and why it was more beneficial to wait and pay more, or excuse me, wait and pay about the same after you've reclaimed versus kind of paying early and then waiting for this to play out. Let's get into it. I haven't read this report either, but if we could see a breakout here and realignment of the moving averages, like ideally what we see on something like this is we see a push out and then it kind of basing or flagging into those moving averages as the 10 and 20 reclaim the 50 and then kind of catch up like, this, right? This is obviously the ideal setup. So we need that pop through, then a flag back into them with everything in alignment, and then we can make that continuation move upwards. And a good example of that is obviously XOM. So, down in here, this is like where McDonald's is right now as far as this chart is concerned. You're like right in here, right? There's still this risk, this risk of downside. So what we need to happen is I can't believe that call out. It's literally identical. So you need this pop through. We need a flag in to the moving averages on alignment and then continuation. Like, again, right, it goes back to the John Deere example where McDonald's is in the same spot as John Deere was in this red circle, right? Hypothetically. The charts look very similar, right? But we're still in a downtrend. How do we know that this is the bottom? You have past price action, but nothing really that suggests this is the spot. So, yes, I could have bought here and then waited for it to make this swing down and then the reclaim and then the flag. Or I can wait for this to play out and pay a little bit more later, right? Here I would have paid 380, here I pay 400, but the move happens a lot quicker and it's a lot more predictable. Whereas here, right, if I bought John Deere here, or if I buy McDonald's where it is, there's a pretty big risk of it making another marginal low before making that reclaim and maybe a flag and then the continuation just like John Deere did. I mean, this is almost an identical chart. Okay, so a few months ago in May, I was approached with McDonald's to see if maybe this was an opportune entry spot here. Determined that since we were below the moving averages and still kind of in this downtrend here, there was no reason to enter in, and that the ideal scenario would have been to wait for the reclaim and then a flag before the breakout. And as you can see, you've got that exact same setup here. You've got a drawdown from where we were looking at it in May, some consolidation underneath here while it just kind of builds out a little mini base, breaks up back through on volume with earnings through all those moving averages, and then that first flag right there is the most opportune entry. And if you'll notice, in both scenarios, you're paying about the same amount, okay? When we were talking about it back in here, you're at about $272, and at the breakout point here, you're at about $271. So almost identical there as far as price paying. But you can see in one scenario back in May, you're below all the moving averages after breaking down from that $300 high. And in the current scenario, you're above all the moving averages in a nice tight flag up here. Okay, and then that's where you get the nice strong continuation move out of there. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense now that we've seen it kind of play out exactly as we drew it up in May. And again, that was another example that we showed, which was John Deere. Same thing, right? You can either wait. I'd rather wait and pay later than pay and have to wait for this downtrend move to play out before reclaiming. Hope that helps. See you guys in the next one. Oh, and follow my Twitter. Goodbye.